Welcome to Same Pod, Different Cast. Each week we talk about a crazy story. I'm Mel Black.
And I'm Marie White. We're a couple of moms who like listening to tales of survival, humor, and mystery, but also be around our kiddos. Parental discretion is advised. We are back, and apologies, but life happens. But I really hope that today's episode was worth the wait, not only because of the topic, but because we have a fan favorite returning. So please welcome back, Brittness King.
A fan favorite?
Even if we are our only fans, we love you, so.
Okay, all right. I was going to say, I feel like that may have just been to be nice, but I'm going to take it anyway.
So, Brittany, real quick before we get started, I just want you to just talk about a little about you and you're part of a band now, and I just want to hear all about that.
Oh yeah, so I'm a performer, and I've been performing for a while now, doing solo shows. But then I joined a band. It's called the Band Downstairs, and we're kind of like bluesy rock. I'm kind of pulling them more in the pop rock, like harder rock direction. And I'm the newest person in the band, so I came in with all these ideas, and I'm also trying to get them to expand where we're playing. I shouldn't say all this in case they watch this, but they're all wonderful and they're all so talented, and it's been really fun to get to perform with like just a group of crazy skilled musicians. And I'm one of two singers in the band. And it's also fun to get to do harmonies and like go back and forth with the song.
Do you have any shows coming up?
We have a show on the 18th at the American Legion, Post 34. And it is from 7 to 9. And we've got a pretty wide variety of stuff. Like I said, we've got some music from the band. We've got some Creedence Clearwater Revival. We've got some Queen. I shoved some My Chemical Romance in there. So
those are very drastic themes. But if anybody knows Brittany, this adds up. The early 2000s were a significant period defined by fashion trends such as low-rise jeans, words like chillax and shizzle becoming part of everyday vernacular. MySpace had just been released, and Blink-182 was in its heyday. It was also when the rise of reality TV began. Seriously, it feels like a fever dream because only in the 2000s would anyone watch two party princesses move from LA to work on a farm and it continue for 5 seasons.
That was 5 seasons?
On today's episode, we are going to talk about a pivotal reality TV show from the 2000s and the impact that it made. This is Beyond the Scale. In 2006, at the age of 26, Kai Hibbard found herself weighing 265 pounds. After a suggestion from a friend, she auditioned and was selected as one of the 14 cast members for season 3 of The Biggest Loser. The idea of The Biggest Loser was conceived by David Broom, who was an executive producer. He saw a help wanted sign for a personal trainer to save my life. Admittedly, Kai didn't watch the show before her season, but she was excited. Kai was given the chance to change her life. I mean, for the next 30 weeks, she was going to be able to get advice from expert trainers and dietitians who have worked with celebrities. It was an opportunity that was too good to pass up. She didn't know it then, but this was a decision she would later regret. After auditioning, 50 lucky finalists are brought to LA and arrive at their hotel. Before filming, they're checked in, and the access keys to their rooms are taken from them, along with any electronics that they have. They are given a stacked contract that they are required to sign. But like I said, their access keys are taken, so they're not allowed to leave their rooms. And if they do leave, the hotel staff are supposed to notify the producers that this happened. But because of this, it makes having a lawyer review this contract dang near impossible. I heard on The Nerve, which is a podcast hosted by Maureen Callahan, one of the former contestants were being interviewed, and she was actually able to get a lawyer to review this contract. I don't know how she was able to manage that, but her lawyer told her that under no circumstances should she sign it. Obviously, she moved on to be on the show, but she said that after she signed it, she couldn't quit due to what was written in that contract. She seemed to indicate that what was written in the contract is that essentially if she quit, they could come back and come after her house and her reputation and her livelihood.
Jesus. Like, how is that legal? Just put anything in a contract and you can get away with it. Also, I just realized I am shoving a loaf of bread in my mouth as we're talking about The Biggest Loser, and it's fine.
It's appropriate.
If they actually attempted to sue her for that, I believe she would have a solid argument of that was being signed under duress, because you would not let them talk to a lawyer. You wouldn't let them leave their room.
Yeah.
What are they going to do?
Yeah, and actually she was later sued. So this certain contestant was later sued because she spoke out against The Biggest Loser, and it was her
Wow.
and another woman was later sued.
That's wild. I mean, that's like an immediate red flag. Like, you want to be on the show? We're going to lock you in a room and take away your access to the outside world.
They weren't even allowed to talk to other contestants. Like, they were sequestered by themselves.
Lovely.
Oh my gosh, I already have 1,000 questions, so I'm going to have to just keep it together until...
Once they narrowed down the pool of 14 contestants, these individuals were taken to Gloretta Adventure Camp, otherwise known as the Ranch. Contestants are given a medical exam by Dr. Hazinga. Now, let's talk about Dr. Hazinga for a second, because he is an important character in our story. Dr. Hazinga, who is referred to as Bob by some, knew his stuff. After attending Harvard Medical School, he was appointed chief medical resident at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. He left there to become the youngest team physician for the NFL on the Los Angeles Raiders football team. He later wrote a book, You're Okay, It's Just a Bruise, a doctor's sideline secrets about pro footballers' most outrageous team, which would be one of the inspirations for the movie Any Given Sunday. What he was most famous for, besides being the doctor on The Biggest Loser, is being a defense witness for the 1995 O.J. Simpson trial. He examined O.J. 3 days after the horrific crime and testified in court on his findings.
I was going to say, everybody came out all right in that one. Foreshadowing? I think yes.
God, anything OJ makes me giggle. Sorry.
In like the worst way.
Yeah, it's in a really twisted way, in like a Norm Macdonald way.
The medical exams Dr. Hazinga would give the contestants were extensive. They would undergo bone density scans, blood work including metabolic markers, thyroid panels, additional hormone level testing, lipid profiles, insulin resistant test, and the measurements of their resting metabolic rate. Dr. Hazinga wanted to paint a full picture of their metabolic health so that he could, to the best of his ability, fully assess the long-term risk of losing weight rapidly. There were times in which he would tell producers and contestants that they were not in the state to be able to compete on a season of The Biggest Loser because their results came back so poorly. He gave this advice for good reason, because very quickly contestants understood that the next 30 weeks were not going to be a cakewalk. No pun intended.
There would be involved cake, though.
Kai stated that her first workout was intense in complexity and duration. Contestants are expected to work out anywhere from 5 to 8 hours a day. She said her feet bled through her shoes for 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
From everything that I read and heard about Dr. Huizinga, he really had the contestants' best interest at heart. He would tell them the appropriate calories to consume, which were between 1,200 and 2,000 kcals per day. What made things complicated was that Dr. Huizinga was in one ear telling him all the healthy ways that they should go about this, while the trainers are telling them something vastly different. In comes Bob Harper and Jillian Michaels. Bob was a celebrity fitness instructor who had no experience with working with obese clients. Jillian actually experienced childhood obesity and was stated that she used food as comfort at a young age. Her mother enrolled her in martial arts when she was about the age of 13, and that is when she became inspired to move forward with fitness. These trainers would encourage their clients to lower their calorie intake and would even provide them with stackers or caffeine weight loss pills. This cracked me up. Jillian even stated that she wanted producers to only buy her brand of stackers because they were cleaner than any other brands.
What?
Yeah, definitely not a conflict of interest there.
Is stackers?
I'm sure it is.
Is that still a thing?
Yeah, they do still sell them, at GNC. For the general audience, you should know that these supplements are garbage and you should not waste your money on them. But yes, unfortunately, people are still fooled into buying these.
Oh my God.
Dr. Huizinga's biggest hurdle was working with the trainers. After the first season, he demanded that he be able to speak to them one-on-one to help assure that they were all on the same page as to what is appropriate and healthy versus whatever they were doing. It was very apparent that what he would say to them would go in one ear and right out the other. He started to notice that he wouldn't be notified when certain challenges were occurring, and these were specifically the more dangerous ones, because he knew and everybody else knew that he would object to it.
What could go wrong?
Jillian Michaels didn't appear in the recent Netflix documentary, but after its release, she reported to TMZ screenshots of emails that were, by all means, confusing. She stated that they proved things that in fact they did not, such as Dr. Huizinga being aware that contestants were using stackers, which he adamantly denies. In my opinion, these screenshots also made her look worse and at a certain level of incompetent. In the screenshot, she stated that Dr. Huizinga didn't know what he was doing and that he shouldn't be prescribing or taking any of the contestants off medication. Now, I will explain this. The explanation here is that Dr. Huizinga took a specific contestant off metformin before she started the show. Now, metformin can be used for multiple reasons. The two most specific are managing blood sugar levels in someone with type 2 diabetes and to treat symptoms of PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is why this contestant was taking it. When being used for PCOS, it can be an effective tool for inducing ovulation in women, but because it is also used for diabetes, it will reduce glucose production and absorption. Like I said before, the initial medical exams were extensive, and the results of the contestants' glucose levels were already low. So, given that she is about to endure 30 weeks of an intense workout and calorie deficit, in which her glucose levels will naturally decrease, he took her off this prescription on day one to ensure she didn't suffer from a critical hypoglycemic episode. Jillian lost her mind and said that he isn't an expert and he doesn't have the right to do any of that.
Why would, I mean, does she have any level of medical expert, like training? Like,
No, she is a fitness instructor, and she is an expert in that.
but that is
But
not the same as medication.
yeah, girl, stay in your
Like,
lane.
Jesus. I mean, it's wildly insulting.
Yeah, I mean, she essentially said that these types of medications need to be weaned, not immediately taken off, in much like thyroid medication or something like that. But his thing was, she wasn't taking it for diabetes; she was taking it for this other thing that it doesn't need to be. She has no idea what she's talking about, essentially. Now, I cannot confirm this, but it is alleged that the trainers whose team members would win the show also won a cash reward.
Mm.
Besides the potential bonus aspect, there were many incentives to be one of the trainers on this show, publicity being one of them. Even though that the producers and the trainers knew that the majority of weight loss happens in the kitchen, that doesn't make for good television. They were both known, they, as in both Bob and Jillian, were both known to yell at contestants and push them harder and harder. Injuries and puking and fainting became all too common. Something that was highlighted in the Netflix documentary and was honestly the hardest part for me to watch was about a contestant named Tracy from season 8. On the season opener, while the contestants were on their way to the ranch, they were asked to run 1 mile on the beach. If they didn't cross the finish line, they couldn't move forward with the competition. Running on the beach is hard for anyone who is physically fit, let alone somebody who lives a sedentary lifestyle. Tracy was determined to finish, but she collapsed before she got to the finish line. Her fellow contestants helped carry her across, but that was when they realized that she wasn't doing well and she needed to be airlifted to the hospital. Tracy truly believes that she died that day. She was diagnosed with a severe condition that led to organ failure, so essentially her body just shut down. And she was able to recover and rejoin the contestants on the show.
She rejoined? Dude, this, like, this obsession with weight loss, like, I understand, like, it's important to be healthy. I can't believe how I just can't. I'm sorry. That is like, I have nothing of value to add right now. I'm just angry.
I'm fascinated with this because, like, for full disclosure, Marie had me watch the documentary and she didn't have you watch the documentary because she wanted perspectives on both sides. And from my understanding is Tracy had a lot of emotional baggage back home that's why she was determined to stay, because she was convinced that this was going to fix it. This was going to fix her marriage. This was going to fix her. And so that's why I think she didn't want to leave. And that, from an outside perspective, that is like, girl, like, I think somebody just needs to give you a really big hug. And it kind of sounded like the doctor was really supportive and like, okay, you can stay. You're going to follow my rules though. And so I don't think he even let her work out for, they didn't even say when she was, yeah.
Well, she wasn't supposed to. He told her, it's like, you are not to work out with the other trainers. And then Jillian and Bob would be like, you need to work out. Like, this is why you're here. And I think she actually did end up working out with Bob and Jillian.
Yeah, there was one point where, like, she did a weigh-in and she had lost 12 pounds. And I was like, how did she do that? So that makes sense that she would have continued. But yeah, that's, I mean, if as someone who would be in that, I don't think I've ever found myself in that situation where I was like, I almost died and I'm going to continue to do this thing.
Which is so sad.
One of the contestants that Maureen Callahan interviewed on her podcast said that trips to the hospital were not unheard of and happened frequently. She actually was flabbergasted when one of the producers being interviewed on the Netflix documentary said that he had no way of knowing something like what happened to Tracy would happen. She said that it happened so frequently there was no way they didn't know what that
Really?
would happen by season 8.
Yeah, by season 8.
Yeah. And she, like, if I remember correctly, this specific contestant was in season 2. So
Yeah.
she's like, by season 8, they knew. What I also didn't realize, because I never watched The Biggest Loser, was that most of the shows around that time were a half an hour to an hour time slot. The Biggest Loser got so big that it would be a 2-hour time slot on NBC during prime time. Yeah, so imagine what they would have to do to get people interested and to stay interested to watch 2 hours about a show about losing weight.
And sorry, did what season did it grow to be a 2-hour show? Like, how long did that take?
I don't know that one specifically. I want to say it was probably by season 3, because this thing got big fast.
As people get small,
that is insane.
So let's talk about the episode format really quick. Initially, contestants were paired into 2 or 3 teams until enough people were eliminated. When the teams were dissolved, the show became an individual competition. Each episode consisted of a temptation challenge, and this is the part that I hate the most, because it's just super degrading. The challenge consisted of the contestants being given a set amount of time to make a choice between eating a high-calorie food, such as pizza or cake, for a beneficial trade-off. Or they could not eat anything at all, and they wouldn't be given any kind of benefits moving forward. But sometimes the contestants didn't even know what the prize might be. It could be something like talking to their families. Like the first episode, this was introduced. They hadn't talked to their families in 6 weeks, and they were given the chance to talk to their families for like 5 minutes. So this was the trade-off. You could eat a high-calorie food for a chance to talk to your family, but keep in mind, you still have to weigh in at the end of the week and lose weight. So
that is sick.
Yeah.
That is vile behavior. Like, I never watched it regularly, but I've seen it. And I, like, as you're describing this stuff, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Mm-hmm. And I didn't even think anything of it when I was watching it. That is like, emotional abuse.
Oh yeah, I think the whole point of the show, they say, the producers can say what they want. I think the whole point of the show was to make fun of fat people.
Maybe that's not what their intention was, but that's 100% how it came across.
Yeah. Like there was a part of the Netflix documentary where they were talking about an episode where each team had to build a tower of food, but they could only use their mouths. So they're like, it's these people carrying like loaves of bread to like stack up to make this tower.
I never, they're only using that whole part had to be just sole entertainment, because I can't figure out why that was necessary. You know, because again, you had to sell the show, but
yeah, like there was some of the challenge that there was actually no fitness, like there's no benefit fitness wise to it, but they would make them do it, like walk on the tight wire. What are you gaining fitness wise from this? But you're just doing it to embarrass fat people.
Right. And like lots of people of any shape and size can't walk a tightrope. If I tried to walk on a tightrope right now, I mean, I'm thicker, but there's no way I could walk on a tightrope.
You think that's how the show Wipeout came to be?
Potentially.
Okay, now watching completely able-bodied people wipe out is funny. Sorry.
But no, that show's hilarious. I think
like, I love watching a person fall under any circumstances.
The next scenes would be the contestants working out with their trainers. This segment would consist of the trainers speaking with the contestants and would usually display some kind of emotional issue that one was dealing with at the time. So each week it would kind of change which contestant they were relating to. The next segment would be the last chance workouts, which would consist of an intense workout done before their weigh-in. The next segment would be the weigh-in segment, which would consist of contestants getting on the scale, usually without a shirt. In the later episodes, due to the amount of weight they were losing, they didn't want the audience to see loose skin, so they would be able to wear a shirt then. All contestants were weighed in to determine the amount they lost relative to their total body weight. This was the way that they made it fair. So it was more of a ratio rather than, or a percentage rather than total fat loss. During team-based competitions, the team that lost the highest percentage wins. The losing team must send one person home. When it becomes an individual competition, the two contestants who lose the lowest percentage of weight are below a yellow line and are eligible for elimination. The final segment is the vote. This segment consisted of contestants from the losing team voting out someone by displaying their name on a silver platter, which I also thought was degrading.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Also, they would have, like, in the later seasons, they would have their names, they would have like refrigerators in the back, and your names would be lit up on these refrigerators. Yeah. Before the vote, the contestant would have the opportunity to plead their case to help remain on the show. Once someone was eliminated, they were not done with the competition. They were actually entered into a at-home competition against the other eliminated contestants to see who can lose the most weight for a chance for a smaller prize of around $100,000. The winner of the Biggest Loser, the one that would stay on the show, would win $250,000. So
I didn't realize that they could continue to do it at home. From my understanding, though, I wish that meant that they had like nutritional resources. You know, it kind of sounds like they didn't, and that's painful.
I'm just still processing how many things that I watched that I'd forgotten about. And then you say it, and it's like I have a completely different perspective now than I did. Like, we were all so brainwashed back then. Like you said, like in the birth of reality TV, it just turned humans into these objects that were solely for our entertainment.
Just nuts.
And just diminishing people to one trait that may or may not even be true about them.
Yeah.
Like the silver platter, I forgot about that. That is insane.
Yeah.
I'm
It's like
worked up right now.
I mean, like to go back to the temptation challenges, it would honestly, I watched a couple of those, and it would make me kind of sick to my stomach, just like because they would walk into these rooms and it would just be a huge gallery of multi-tiered tables full of food, and they would have to choose, like, as if people who are obese, the only reason they're obese is because they cannot resist themselves. Like, that's not
Right.
that's not always the reason.
And also, if their issue is food temptation, why are you trying to stunt their progress? Like, if you actually care about the well-being of these people, which clearly they didn't. Also, if I walked in a room with a bunch of tables of food, I'm going ham. Like, are you kidding me? It's so associating it just with people of a certain size. Yeah, degrading. That's the right word for it. It's dehumanizing.
The recommendation for most medical professionals for an appropriate and safe amount of weight loss is to lose about 1 to 2 pounds a week, to being aggressive. These contestants would be in the double digits, and with how much they were losing a week, it was unsafe. The biggest single week weight loss was 41 pounds.
How? That sounds like a medical emergency.
Yeah.
That's an amputation.
It's a couple of limbs for sure.
I would also like to note that the weigh-ins were not always week by week. We have all heard of movie magic. And in order for the weight loss to seem more drastic, they would sometimes push the weigh-ins to be every 10 days to sometimes 2 weeks. So that 41 pounds, I'm not sure if that truly was a week, but it was like a week in terms of the show.
But 2 weeks is still.
It's still a lot.
40 pounds is insane for a month.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually was just talking to my mother about this because she was saying how she wants to lose 10 pounds in a month. And I told her, I was like, that's really aggressive. And that was before we decided we were going to have a conversation about this. But it was like 41 pounds in a week.
Mm-mm.
If you do any research on this will come up. So we are going to discuss this briefly, but I don't have any photos of any of the contestants for the show for a reason on this. And I specifically didn't want to add any of this specific contestant. Her name is Rachel Fredrickson. She was the season 15 winner. Rachel started the show at 260 pounds and lost 155 pounds in the 30-ish weeks that she was on the show. So, doing the math, she was 105 pounds on her 5'4" frame. To give you an idea, Brittany, when I did my show for my bodybuilding competition, I was 114 pounds. So, think 10 pounds less than what I was there. For the listening audience, I am also 5'4". She is the only contestant who reported being underweight by the end of the competition.
Yeah.
She looked emaciated. And from the episode video, Bob and Jillian were shocked and horrified when they saw her. And I didn't understand this because I thought, I thought they were with her the whole time. Like she was, they were her trainer. Like how were you so shocked by seeing her? And what I didn't realize is that there is actually a 30-day gap between the second to last episode and the season finale, in which they actually send all of the contestants home. So when they actually walked out on stage, there was a legitimate shock factor for everybody because they didn't know what they looked like.
Oh, wow.
Because they'd been home for a month.
But see, the way that I'm very cynical about this. They are like, if them acting horrified sounds to me like a desperate grab to seem like they actually care about these people. Like and again, I didn't watch the documentary, but if you're going to treat people the way you've been treating them through this competition, and then suddenly they're that thin, and then you're like, oh, you're too thin. I'm like, no, I don't think you actually care. I think that you're just trying to humanize yourself now.
Yeah, we'll get into more to Bob and Jillian and how they truly treated people versus what was on the show. But I think you're right. Like, I think what they were being taught wasn't exactly healthy. And I didn't really understand why they were giving them a 30-day gap to go home. Like, other than the shock factor, like, what is the point of this? And it actually cracked me up because when I searched this, Google expressed what the purpose of this was. And it said the goal of the 30-day period was to allow contestants to test their newfound healthy habits in their own environments away from contestant supervision and intense training of the ranch. And I think we can all admit that nothing about these habits were healthy. Like, I mean, there were contestants that came back. The guy that won season 1, he admittedly said he didn't eat anything for 10 days before his final weigh-in. Because remember, it's a competition. Like, it's not like a lot of these people did take it as they wanted to change their lives. But a lot of people thought, oh, no, I want to win $250,000. So they're going to do everything they can to make sure that weigh-in, they have lost the most weight possible. So all he ate for 10 days was like maple syrup, lemon juice, and cayenne pepper.
Oh
so,
my God.
Yeah.
Kelly Kapoor. I bought some bikinis online. Size 2. Yeah. I'm going to look amazing.
I remember you were talking about a girl that you worked with who would do competitions not at the same time as you, but like you knew her and she was doing it, and when she stopped training for that competition and she started eating again, like you regain weight rapidly. Yeah. So
Fast. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the day after my fitness competition, I was allowed to eat whatever I wanted the day after. And I got on the scale that night and I had gained 10 pounds. Not realistically, that wasn't actually 10 pounds, but like your body does like rebound very quickly when you have that much weight off of you in that amount of time because you can't sustain that. Your body's going
Yeah.
to try to gain it quickly because it wants to take care of itself.
Yeah.
So,
It's like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this. Please hold on to every ounce that I
yes.
can.
This leads me to talk about the mentality or psychology behind someone who would be a contestant on this show. I think there are multiple reasons why somebody would go on the show, but I think there's more reasons why they would stay on the show. So this goes back to really to Tracy and why she rejoined after almost dying, or from what she thought she actually did die. And I think there are multiple reasons. There's the fear of consequences. They signed a contract and we don't know exactly what was in that, but if they are giving you a recipe blog length document to sign, I guarantee it wasn't going to be sunshine and rainbows if they left.
No way.
Another one is the fear of the unknown. These contestants came here to change their lives. They didn't want to go back to being exactly the same way they were. So, of course, they're going to do everything that they can to stay. Like Tracy was a good example because you were right. She had a terrible marriage. She wanted to be different for her kids. She had all of these reasons why she didn't want to go back to where she was the same way she was.
yeah, I remember them saying on the documentary that they were not looking for people who were overweight and happy. They were looking for people who were overweight and unhappy. And that is a specific type of trauma
That
to your brain that would do anything to get to this achievement. And that is dangerous.
at the very beginning of this, Marie, one of the first things I wanted to say, but I stopped myself, was I bet they have a really specific strategy as to who they're picking. And I think they probably are picking people who, yes, exactly what you just said. Also, people who have low self esteem to the point that they are willing to do anything, that they might not even realize how much they are being manipulated. I mean,
Yeah.
it's predatory.
Yeah. Another thing is emotional dependency. The contestants were completely cut off from their families. They can make 5-minute phone calls about every 6 weeks and are monitored by the member of a production team to make sure that they don't say anything as far as giving show secrets away. So they are emotionally dependent on everyone that is on this show. And what I think is interesting is when I was researching how some of the contestants felt about leaving the show, it reminded me of the psychology behind people who try to leave cults.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you get someone to join a cult, is you start cutting off their resources to all of the things that might wake them up.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that the people who still think highly of this show, who are on it and they think that it changed their lives, I'm not saying that they're a part of a cult. That's what I'm saying. I'm just thinking the way that you can manipulate people is the same as a cult leader would. Like, it's
Yeah.
just very similar. But what's funny is that one of the YouTube channel is called Coffee and Cults. And so shout out to Ash Silver because she did a great deep dive on this actually. So you should definitely go watch her video because she had the privilege of actually talking to some of the contestants. So I will link her video below, so check it out. But I just thought it was funny that I had this thought that is very cultish, and then her channel is called Coffee and Cults. Another thing that I found fascinating and sad is contestants refer to each other as losers. and not in a derogatory way. This was an endearing one. It is shifting your brain to take something or a word that is normally signified as an insult as a compliment. And I'm not a doctor or an expert, but it is my thinking that that kind of shift can open you up for all kinds of manipulation.
I feel like there is power in reclaiming words that are meant to hurt you. Um, I think when you're told to do it,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case. Like, I don't think the word fat needs to be taken as an insult. Like, I think that, like, I consider myself to be a little fat, and that just is what it is. And I'm not like mad about it. And when people try to be like using that word as an insult, I'm kind of like, okay, but like I already know that. So what? Like, so I understand the power in, I mean, historically, so many cultures and groups of people have had to do that to reclaim identity and take power away from hurtful words. But like, again, it's the manipulation of like, you're doing this for the sake of this show. You're doing this to get you in this specific mindset for the time that you're here. Yeah, again, it's going back to what you were saying about it just being a show to make fun of people.
One, we're going to shift a little bit because this part is uncomfortable, but I feel like it needs to be talked about. One of the
I'm ready.
things that I hadn't heard about, but ultimately I'm not surprised, is the amount of affairs that happened on this show. Yeah. The footage of this happening never aired because the producers tastefully decided to not let this be the focus of the show. But they really wanted it to be about weight loss. But I guess, I mean, you're taking people and they're 30 weeks
Cut
away.
off from their families. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I, yeah, I could see it happening. It's really sad because, say, like, if my husband left to go on this show for 30 weeks to better his life, and then I find out he had an affair, like, I'd be ticked.
Oh
Like,
my goodness.
Yeah. But I feel like that's also not, I'm not condoning any of this, but all the other factors, the isolation, the emotional manipulation, like you're setting these people up, like you're putting everything together for just one thing to knock down the
Let's
dominoes.
all trauma bond.
one of the parts that really hit me hard, and I think it's just because we have family members that have issues with this, but the part that hit me hard was the testimonies of people who were not on the show but watched it religiously. Many of them would be overweight themselves and they didn't understand why they couldn't drop weight like the people on this show. When obviously we know this now that in a realistic setting, these people wouldn't have been able to drop
No.
the weight that quickly
And
either.
here's the thing that really just I go back and forth on is in a realistic setting, there's no way those two trainers or the three, I think that at one point there were three, would say, yeah, this is totally healthy. This is okay. You have 30 weeks. We're going to drop 200
Mhm.
pounds or 100
Yeah.
pounds or whatever it is. That's crazy to me.
That's
Yeah.
what I don't really understand why Jillian was so up in arms with Dr. Hazinga, because there's no way she thought dropping 175 pounds in 30 weeks was a healthy thing to do. I don't care if you have never worked with obese people or not. We all know that that is, you could have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like,
She did say that they did not show a lot of what was in there. Like, for instance, the moments in the gym where you're screaming. She's like, remember, they're working out 5 to 8 hours a day. You're getting a 30-second shot of something that happened throughout that day. She's like, so a lot of the times that is not what was happening. She also said that
Right.
you know, because it sort of played into kind of the thing with like the people, the going home thing, and how she's like, we did talk about things, you know, again, I don't know what education she has on whether this was appropriate, but she said there was one point where there was a contestant, it was like a son and his dad, and they were in it, and they went home, and they said that they were on the show that they were like sending them home to see their families for a week, and in reality it was Christmas vacation, and so like everybody went home. And when they got back, they did a weigh in, and the dad had lost like 4 pounds, and the son had lost nothing. And she was like, okay, what is this about? And what it turned out they walked through the door, and there was mom, who was also obese, who was now upset that they essentially quote unquote, broke a contract, you know, that everybody was obese together, and now she feels left out, and the son sort of latched on to that emotional trauma to that. And she sort of just was talking about that, and that it was not so much, they did discuss, you know, the emotional challenges that come with weight gain, and that was comforting to me. But again, at the end of the day, how are you comfortable with someone losing that amount of weight in that short amount of time? I don't get it. It's absolutely not sustainable unless you are a professional athlete.
I know I talked about a lot of the negative sides of the show, but I do want to highlight some of the positives. There were other couples that did form because of this show. I guess there's a long-standing joke that The Biggest Loser is more successful with relationships than The Bachelor. There were couples that have since divorced or separated, but I wanted to highlight the ones that are still together. Marty and Amy met on season 3, married in 2008, and share 2 sons. Coley and Ashley met on season 9 and married in 2015, and they have a daughter. Jessica and Ramon met on season 12, married in 2018, and they have a son. And Toma and Chelsea met on the show, although not on the same season, and they started dating in 2018.
That's so cute.
And that makes sense. Like, it's because they experienced a significant emotional roller coaster together.
Yeah.
And even the people who were on different seasons, even if they didn't go through it together, like, if you go through something, whether it's emotionally significant in a positive or negative way, like, having someone to relate to is huge. So absolutely, that would be more successful than The Bachelor. Are you kidding me? Those idiots don't know what they want.
Yeah.
People who are trying to help better their lives, doing it together. Some guy who made out with 12 women but gave you a rose.
Many contestants also dealt with infertility struggles and hoped that coming on the show would help with them eventually conceiving. Olivia Ward was the winner of season 11, and she had nothing but good things to say when she talked about her trainer, Bob Harper. She said her experience was truly life-changing, and Bob was very supportive and became a long trusted friend. Her and her husband were eventually able to conceive a baby boy whom they named Harper.
Good outcome.
A contestant from season 6, Michelle, did say that Jillian Michaels was not as she appeared on television. She stated that she was incredibly kind, and there was a moment in which she truly wanted to quit the show, and Jillian helped her through that. She would later go on to win season 6.
No. I feel like what they do to the coaches is probably similar to what they do on like Jerry Springer, where like they give you a bunch of like Red Bulls and then just like talk to you about all the things that piss you off,
Yeah.
and then like shake you around a little bit and then have you go out on stage. Like, you're only
It's
saying it so
manipulated.
Yeah, they're manipulated too. I still have a hard time with them as coaches, though, with some of the choices they made. But anyway.
Yes. Yeah, I think they kind of toot their own horns a little too much, and think that they did all of this for a greater good, but in reality, I still can't get behind. They had all of these incentives to push these people this hard.
So I don't know why this just popped in my head, but this is what when I think of reality TV, this is what I think about. If you watch the documentary about the bling ring and how the one of the girls that was a part of that thievery thing, or I guess she wasn't technically, but she was, she was arrested, but it was arrested while she was like filming a reality TV show with her family, but she wasn't arrested on the show. So the show redid this arrest and they got the cop that arrested her to do it. And so like he was on the reality show rearresting her, and I was like, nothing's real. Nothing's real.
It appears that the contestants from The Biggest Loser rest in one of two camps. Those who believe that the show was a good thing. These contestants were able to shift into a healthier mindset and maintain or minimize any further weight gain. I listened to Jillian Michaels' podcast episode titled Exposing the Secrets of The Biggest Loser, What Really Happened, Where They Are Now. On it, she interviewed a few former contestants who were able to keep off the weight. Season 6 winner Michelle was interviewed, and she discussed being on the show with her estranged mother. She attested that because of the show, they have a much better relationship, but she did wish the show provided counseling while they were on it.
Oh, no.
They don't offer any kind of counseling?
No.
She did, on that same episode podcast that I was listening to that she was on, she did say that about 30% of her contestants were able to maintain the weight, like to keep the weight off, which is a pretty high, that's greater than, people in general, like society in general, being able to keep weight off.
On that same episode of her podcast, Jillian also talked to Hannah and Olivia, who are sisters from season 11 and came in first and second place. Hannah said that she could not stress enough that it was discussed every day how hard it would be for them when they got home. She expressed her frustrations with anyone who came out saying that they were not prepared with what to expect when they left the show because of how often they discussed it. Olivia talked about how the show was difficult, but it allowed her to believe in herself and gave her the tools to be able to keep the weight off and even lose the weight again after both of her pregnancies. She did state that she wished she had started planning for her return home at the beginning of the show rather than towards the end. She thinks her transition would have been a lot easier if that was something that she had planned from the very start. On that episode, Jillian says that they had a 35% success rate among the contestants, which leads to a 65% who didn't keep the weight off. She says this is due to deeper issues not being resolved. I think what she means by this, and I think we kind of touched a little bit on this earlier, was that everyone was on this show because they were self-medicating with food for various reasons, such as childhood trauma or relationships that had gone south or an injury that had displaced them from doing something that they love. Jillian believes that the people who came out of The Biggest Loser and were successful, even 15 or 20 years later, were because they were able to work on whatever the reason was that was holding them back. They paid attention to what they were being taught versus just taking whatever was being told to them to get by for the sake of the competition. She thinks the people who did not succeed in the long run did not work on the initial issue that got them there in the first place. And honestly, I think she's right. But at the same time, I don't think the show actually gave the contestants a space to work on things emotionally, especially when said trainer is yelling at you to continue physically pushing yourself harder and harder to the point that you puke. I don't think that fosters an environment for emotional growth. You know what I mean?
No, that's exactly it. Like, 'cause absolutely. Like, some sort of therapy should have been part of the show for these people, because everybody self-medicates in some way until you get to the root of why you're doing it. And so yelling at someone is not going to help them work on, especially because a lot of times they'd yell at these people in a way that was just kind of like degrading again. Like it was, even if they're only showing 30 seconds of the 8 hours they're working out, in those 30 seconds, if you're saying something heinous to someone, what part of that day do you think they're going to remember?
No.
What part of the day do you think they're going to internalize?
Yeah.
And that is just going to compound all the other issues that they have, that's causing them to have this issue in their life. Ugh, I'm so enraged.
Think what you want about her, but I actually do recommend everybody listen to that episode of her podcast to hear the testimonials of the former contestants. I did find her annoying, and I actually had to fast forward through some of what she was saying on her own podcast. But the contestants were truly inspiring, and just listening to their life stories was amazing because they were very realistic on the fact that this is a lifelong commitment.
Yeah. Oh, that is good to know. Like, and it's good to know that there are people who went through this experience and were able to push past the BS and figure out what they needed to figure out. So no hate to any of the contestants.
The other camp of contestants are those who believe that the show was manipulative and didn't actually help them in the long run. Kai Hibbard, who I talked about at the top, went on to lose 118 pounds and placed second place in her season. She later discussed with the Huffington Post about the lack of aftercare for the contestants once they left the show. She became an advocate for body acceptance and denounced the methods used by the show to cut weight. Sadly, like Jillian said, the majority of the contestants have gained back all or more of their starting weight. I saw it stated that a lot of people blame it on their reduced metabolism due to the burning hundreds of calories a day. Although I did hear it reported that they cannot scientifically blame it on The Biggest Loser because the sample size was too small. The average weekly viewership for The Biggest Loser was 7 million people, and about 200,000 people auditioned per season. The show ran for 17 seasons consecutively from 2004 to 2016. I was shocked by that too. Yeah. With a vastly different style season 18 in 2020. The biggest difference in the last season compared to the others being prizes were reduced to $100,000 plus a trip and a home gym for the Biggest Loser winner and $25,000 for the at-home winner. Temptation challenges were eliminated. All contestants' eliminations were made solely on the basis of weight loss. All the voting was eliminated. And all the contestants were given a 1-year membership to the show sponsor Planet Fitness gyms, access to a nutritionist, and a support group. Obviously, this wasn't as... This sounds amazing, but the winner of that season, the season was only 9 weeks. And they still lost like 155 pounds, the winner of that. But it was supposed to be a healthier way of doing it. And it just didn't. I think the controversies that happened in the previous seasons they didn't have the viewership. And so it just didn't continue after that.
Yeah, it was like kind of like a too little too late situation. Yeah.
According to Maureen Callahan's article in the New York Post, the show rakes in about 100,000 million annually in ad sales with ancillary products such as cookbooks, DVDs, protein powder, clothing, video games, and branded weight loss camps, bringing in tens of millions of dollars per year.
Video games?
Yeah.
Was it for like the Connect?
What?
Actually, that does make sense. I think there actually was a game for the Connect. Yeah.
I'm going to have to Google this. My algorithms are going to be jacked up.
So, though, for those of you who have not watched it yet, you should watch the Netflix documentary because it is from the. They were able to gain a lot of the interviews from the producers and former contestants, but I also knew that one of the guys who was an executive producer at NBC at the time is also now a bigwig at Netflix. So I think that's why they were able to obtain all of these people. But it is a good documentary. I thought it was fairly well done. I felt like they were fair. I think they showed some really horrible things, and they showed, I think, some pretty good things too. So I thought it was fair, but
I'm gonna have to watch it now.
I did.
Melinda
Also,
binged
you're
it.
correct. It was for the Wii, the Connect.
Oh,
you were right.
Yeah. Look at you, Millie.
Using my brain parts.
Research, writing, and editing by Marie White. Original theme music by Caleb Duggar. A special thanks to Mel Black and Brittany King. You can find all our sources in the show notes and photos on our Instagram, username same pod, different cast. Follow, like, and subscribe for future content.